So I've had a lot of people asking me what I think about Mike Johnson, or MAGA Mike as people are calling him now. And the one thing that I realized when he became House Speaker is that the Republican Party, what's left of it, the MAGA Trump cult, they have no intention whatsoever of ever reaching across the aisle and ever trying to appeal to independent or moderate voters. They're going full in extreme with this guy. And they think this is going to be the big win that they were looking for. And I don't know long term if it will be. Don't get me wrong, it's going to be a pain in the ass having to deal with this guy and his bullshit. But hear me out on this one. Joe Biden is going to need to appeal to independents and moderates, and he can do that. Donald Trump is going to have to appeal to independents and moderates, and how the hell can he do that with Mike Johnson as the Speaker of the House? When they've moved even further and further to the right, they're not going to pick up any independents or moderates. And what few sensible Republicans that was left in the party, they're going to move into independent or moderate, or they're going to move left to center, because they ain't going to be able to deal with that shit either. So at the end of the day, I don't know if this was necessarily the biggest win for Trump that he feels like it is at the moment. Short term, yeah, it's going to be annoying as fuck. Long term, it may not work out as well for him as he thinks. But the one clip that I saw of Mike Johnson that pretty much just wrote him off for me, I will never take anything he says seriously, is when he said, if you'll just go to the Bible and open up the Bible, that's my worldview. If you want to know my worldview, just go read the Bible. That's not how it works. You know, people's worldview, when someone says my worldview is the Bible, no, it's not. What it is, your worldview, you use the Bible and you cherry pick and you twist scripture and you manipulate it and you make it say what you want to say to fit your worldview. And everyone does that. Everyone that says the Bible is my worldview, no, you may use it to help shape and mold your worldview, but you could be the most extreme MAGA Republican, or you could be some peaceful, progressive hippie over here. Doesn't matter. Either way, you both read the book and you both pick out the parts that you like the best, and you both leave out the parts that you don't like. Because I guarantee you that if I went into reading the Bible, or the peaceful hippie went into reading the Bible, they could find all sorts of things that's wrong with Mike Johnson's worldview. I could find all sorts of verses and all sorts of scripture that would shoot down his worldview and say Jesus wouldn't be happy with that. So when he says the Bible is his worldview, he loses me, because we all know that he's only manipulating it, twisting it, cherry-picking it, and weaponizing it for his own political and personal gain. I don't buy into any of the bullshit. But he's an election denier. He thinks that the 2020 election was rigged. He thinks Trump really won, and that's a requirement from MAGA Republicans these days. He also thinks that January 6th was just a peaceful, guided tour. It wasn't an insurrection at all. He's anti-vaxxer, of course. He wants to cut Social Security and Medicare. And, of course, he's anti-abortion, and he actually believes that abortions are performed after the baby is born. He's one of those that believes in that harebrained bullshit. And then I saw a clip surface that really just sealed the deal for me. A clip surface that Midas Touch shared, where he was talking about the 60s and the counterculture and the sexual revolution and radical feminism and how we, started Roe versus Wade, and how that all led to the violence that we have out there today. The reason we have all these mass shootings across the country is because we stopped allowing God to be around, and we started pushing immorality, and we started telling people that everything was okay and that sinful lifestyles was cool. And as he stood there on this pulpit spewing that garbage, I was like, yep, I want nothing to do with this. I don't care what a person personally believes. I do not care if a person wants to go pray to God or Jesus or Buddha or Allah or Muhammad or whatever you want to pray to. If it brings you some sort of peace in this world and you leave it right there, you're never going to hear me complain about you. I'm never going to have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is when people brings it into government. Because when you bring it into government, you're bringing your interpretation of it. And you're bringing your political party's interpretation of it. And now you're getting away from this individual type of thing. If someone on an individual level sits down, worships Jesus, prays to Jesus, feels better about themselves because they did so, good for you. Have at it. But the minute you come into government, leave that at the door. I don't want to hear about your religious views. I don't want to hear about your relationship with Jesus. I don't want to hear about any of those things, because it's your interpretation of it. And your interpretation of it cannot dictate the government and dictate the way the rest of us live. We are a melting pot of people with all sorts of different views, all sorts of different ideas, And we cannot let one guy say, well, the Bible's my worldview, and oh, we're all supposed to listen to that guy. Because within Christianity, there's over 60 denominations of Christianity. There's thousands and thousands of churches across this country. And if you go where I live, just down the street, you could go to this Baptist church and go one street over to the next Baptist church, and they disagree with each other. They don't see it eye to eye. So there's no way that you can say, oh, this guy's Bible worldview is going to be good for the country, because that's open for interpretation, and we don't need to be governing based on a book that is open for interpretation. We need to be governing based on evidence, based on data, based on research, based on facts. That is where we need to keep our focus. If it's scientific, if it's evidence, if it's truth, if it's facts, that's what we focus on. Your interpretation of some ancient book has no place in government. So no, I'm not a fan of MAGA Mike, and I'm never going to be. And like I said, it's going to be a real pain in the ass with this guy as the speaker. It could lead to a lot of disastrous things. But long term, all we can do is hope that I can't see how this would ever win over an independent or a moderate. Am I wrong?